Hello there, good morning, happy Saturday. Welcome to the first video of, I believe, what's going to be 20 for the concept of sales and the general topic of sales. If I talk too fast in this video, what's so great about technology is you can actually slow me down. It's super funny because a lot of people speed up professor videos, and I find that it'd be probably more helpful for you to slow me down. But I would like to give you a disclaimer before we get started. I am not a professor for any college or university. I am also not part of any type of bar prep or final prep or any type of other school preparatory service or program. I am merely doing these videos specifically to help two lovely friends of mine. However, maybe it can help you as well. I have synthesized, if you will, the topic of sales into 20 steps that I think, if applied to the actual fact pattern of an essay, you should do relatively well. That's not a guarantee or promise, however, of any kind. So with that said, what is sales? Most basic, sales is a type of transaction that's governed under the UCC Article 2. It specifically has to do with goods, and it usually has to do with the basic buying and selling of products and services. Now, don't get confused. It is an emphasis, and there is an emphasis on goods. Services is not really going to be governed under this. However, there is a little bit of nuance, which we'll get to later. Just most generally, think of when you go to the store and you get yourself a lovely, warm pumpkin spice latte with almond milk without whipped cream. This was a transaction for a good. That's really what this is all about, not coffee, but about the purchase of things. Now, with that said, there's going to be nuance, and I will probably benchmark if something is going to be more complicated. I find it very, I don't want to say easy, but it is easier if it's broken down in this way. It is a little bit more understandable, and you're able to have a better and stronger analysis if you break things down in the way that I have done. You can do whatever you want, but this is just my suggestion. So with that said, the first step I believe that you should always take when you start any type of fact pattern is to look first and foremost at all of the facts and pause before you do anything and think, is there a contract here? Was there even a contract? Because here's the deal. If there's no contract, you don't have to do any other analysis at all whatsoever, because there's really nothing to be done there. If there is a contract, however, then you will. But most of the time, on an essay for sales, there is going to be a contract, but a lot of people have a tendency to just skip over all of that and go to the more complex analysis. Now, don't get me wrong, that's also important, but if you don't have the basic foundation there, your house is going to crumble, right? Let's build things on a rock. So, if we're going to build with that mentality, let's start with that. So, was there a contract formed? So when you're looking at a fact pattern, the first thing that you need to look at is if there is an offer. Now remember, an offer is something that shows a willingness to enter into a bargain. We want to make a deal. Now there's usually two parties when it comes to a contract. You have an offeror and an offeree. Now an offeror is the person offering up this deal to you. So if you ever go to, say, a yard sale, and the person that's there at his house is offering all of these items for sale, he would be the offeror. Now, if I go there and I want to go buy something, and say I find this lovely, broken, awful Expo marker, I'm going to, if I decide to buy it from him, or if I'm considering it, I would be the offeree. Now, most of the time, the offeree is somebody that has been offered something, or somebody that ends up accepting an offer. You don't have to really get caught up too much on it. Just know that there's two sides to this coin. Somebody's offering somebody something, the offeror, and somebody's going to be accepting that offer, the offeree. Now, an offer, remember, even if there is a willingness to enter a bargain, you have to make sure that that offer is reasonably certain. That just means, is the offer something that is actually attainable? Like, could this actually happen? So if somebody offers you, say, a vacation home in an area that has just been decimated by a storm, it's very unlikely that that is going to be a reasonably certain offer. So that's going to be very complicated. That's probably going to get into fraud, all kinds of stuff. It's not going to get that complicated for sales. But just remember, an offer has to be reasonably certain. So on an essay, it would be wise to say, if I went to a yard sale and I really wanted to buy a blender because I love smoothies, fun fact, and the offerer says you can have this for $20. He has the blender right there. I can see it. I can pick it up. I can test it if I wanted to. It's reasonably certain that this is an offer, and it's reasonably certain that this person has a willingness to enter into a bargain with me. And the reason it's important to mention those two things is it helps solidify that it is an offer. It also helps solidify to whoever's grading your paper that you know what an offer is, because you can substantiate it with things like that. Now, the next portion about an offer you have to get to is acceptance. Now, accepting an offer is very, very simple. Okay, so the offeree is the one that can accept. Okay, they're the only ones that can accept because they're put in the receiving role and they get to respond. So acceptance only has to be done in what is known as a reasonable mean. All that means, very simply, is if I, for example, go back to that blender, if I say, I would like to buy this blender, can I do so? Like that's it. It's like, yes. I mean, it's really not that hard. I mean, it's literally just, I accept your, I can literally say, I see that you have marked this blender for $20. I accept your offer. I mean, it's not usually that like simplistic, but it really could be. It's just really, did I accept in a way that's reasonable? Like if I just grab the blender and walk away and throw $20 in his driveway, that's, I mean, you could say that's acceptance. That's not really reasonable. It's probably fine, but that's a reasonable way. Now, there are some types of sales transactions where an offer is actually sent electronically or in the mail. And typically they're going to have like a condition on that offer, and they're going to say how they want you to accept that offer. So if they say, I would like you to accept by responding in the affirmative to this email. I would like you to accept by giving me a phone call. I would like you to accept by writing me a letter. Whatever that is that they request acceptance by, you should do so. Now, if they don't say how they want you to accept it, then as long as you do it in a reasonable way, it's fine. So when you're breaking down an analysis for acceptance, it doesn't have to be more than a couple sentences. All you have to say is something along the lines of, the offeree accepted the offeror's offer in a reasonable way by telling them in person that they would like to accept the offer, or by sending an email in the affirmative. Now, if there is an offer that has a specific instruction on how to accept, and that is they require, a voicemail on Monday at noon. Okay, so if that's on an essay, I would say, in the offeree say that they did that, I would say, the offerer offered this, and this, and you can see this was a true offer. Now, it was a true acceptance because the offeree accepted in a reasonable manner in the method in which the offeror requested by calling at noon and leaving a voicemail, which the offeree did in fact do, therefore acceptance has been met. It's really not too hard. I think I'm making it sound a little bit more complicated than it is. It's really a matter of, did you accept the offer? If I say, do you want to buy this, and you say yes, you've accepted. Now, the next one is consideration. So, consideration is very easy. I say that, right? As someone that loves this type of law. So consideration is really, am I getting something and you're also getting something? Think of like a tit for tat. So usually when there's a type of sales transaction of any kind, somebody gets something on both sides. So in my blender example, I would be getting a blender and the man would be getting $20. So I got a benefit of this deal by getting a blender, and he got a benefit of this deal by getting money. So we both got something. So consideration really is, in the most basic variable way of thinking of it, is a mutual benefit. So if we both have a benefit, there's consideration. Additionally, when you are accepting an offer and an offeror or offers an offer, the purpose of this agreement is one that when one person offers something and the other person accepts it, that creates a mutual agreement with which both parties have what's known as mutual inducement. And mutual inducement, most simply, is I promised you X and you promised me X, and therefore you have to fulfill your end of the bargain. They both make promises. They're mutually bound to each other to fulfill those promises. That's all it is. So when you have any essay, start first with these three things. If you can say in the affirmative on an essay that there is an offer that's reasonably certain, there is an acceptance that has been accepted in reasonable means or by a reasonable method chosen by the offeror, and there's mutual inducement, meaning that both people have something to gain by this agreement, but also something to lose if they don't fulfill their promise, because they both have been obligated now to fulfill promises to the other. If you have these three things, then I would say, based on this, a contract has indeed been formed. And that's the very first step. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else I'd like to add. I guess we're going to go on to step 2. I have to walk all the way over there to go push pause though.